Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you are doing fantastic. So today I wanted to talk to you about something really interesting. It's been one of my craziest experiences since I got into property. I've had some crazy experiences, and you know what? Any investor or any trainer or any property person that tells you that property is all smooth sailing, it's all rosy, is pulling your leg, and they're not telling you the truth. So as far as to say, if you've been in property for quite some time, if you've got a substantial portfolio, I'm sure you've got some crazy stories. So I would love to hear some of your crazy stories, but I guarantee you nothing is going to beat the story I'm going to tell you now. Let me get the exact date so I can give you a better understanding. Okay, if you haven't liked, comment and subscribe to my video channel, then I don't know what the heck you are playing at. So make sure you like this video, make sure you comment and interact, and make sure you subscribe. I want to tell you the story that happened to me in July 2018. Let's rewind a little bit. So I bought a property in Catford, and I decided I was going to give it to an estate agent to let out for me. Now, this estate agent came through a recommendation. Most of the time when I do anything with regards to property, I only work with recommendations, because if anything ever happens, I can go back to the person that made the recommendation and I can say, hey, this person has messed up. I thought you had a good relationship with them. Can you help me rectify it? That's one tip. That's one thing that I always do, because it kind of puts someone else in the firing line, and it means there are 2 or 3 people that can work on my behalf to get a situation resolved if anything ever happens. So I decided I wanted to rent out the property. Now, I know a lot of estate agents all across the country, but I bought a property in an area that I didn't know an estate agent or anyone that could help me out. So I posted on Facebook. A friend of mine came up and said, hey, my uncle runs an estate agent in the area. So I said, look, no problem at all. I just want to get this place rented as soon as possible. So I gave the keys to his uncle, who had an estate agent. Now, it gets a bit interesting, because I was going back and forth with the estate agent, and he emailed me once and he said, hey, look, by the end of August, I think it was August or July, I've got you a tenant lined up and they're going to move in by the end of July or August. So it meant the property was going to stay empty for about a month. And I said, look, you know what? No problem at all. As long as this person signs the contract, this person's ready to move in, yes, I'll take a hit on the mortgage cost for 1 month. And you say it's a good tenant. I said, no problem at all. So, I had made a mistake, in fact, because I had gone, oh, this is good, cool. So I had also asked my brother to find an estate agent for me. And one of his good friends, who runs a very credible estate agency locally around the Bromley, Lewisham, Catford area, had also said they could find a tenant. Now, you've got to understand, this is where it gets a bit tricky. So 2 agents instructed to find me a tenant. Both of them come through recommendation. Both of them don't know each other. I decided to go with, let's say, estate agent A, because they had told me that they had found me a tenant. I forgot to message or email or contact estate agent B, which was my brother's recommendation, to tell them that, hey, by the way, I've now taken on a tenant via estate agent A. So estate agent B carried on doing work, and they carried on doing viewings, because I'd given both of them the keys. One day, estate agent B messages me to say, hey, look, I've got a tenant, I'm taking them in there for a viewing. I didn't reply on time. Since they had the keys and they had full permission to go and carry out viewings, they went to the property. As he walked into the property with his new tenant, or with the prospective tenant, he's shocked. So he calls me and he says, hey, look, I don't like being treated like this. This isn't very professional. If you had decided to rent out the property, then you should have just told me, because it makes me and my company look quite irresponsible. And I said, what are you talking about, mate? Like, sorry, I forgot to contact you and tell you that I had signed a contract for someone else to move in August. And I should have told you that I no longer need your services. He said, no, well, what do you mean? Because I've just walked into your flat and, you know, someone's already moved in. So I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? So naturally, I'm saying, of course, this estate agent is pulling my leg. He's obviously peed off, and maybe the place isn't as clean as it should be, although it's a brand new flat, by the way. So I said, let me check this out. So I dropped everything I was doing. I think I was in a meeting. I cancelled the meeting. I drove all the way to Catford, where I don't even have parking there. Just parked on the side of the road, and I walked into the flat. And you wouldn't believe it. So let's rewind the story. I walked into the flat, and it's as if a pig. Let's use it this way. It's as if a pig wearing a suit had moved in to the flat. Okay, that's a bit rude because that person's actually not a pig. Well, they are a pig actually. I'll tell you why they are a pig later. Anyway, there was food in the fridge. There was shower gel in the shower. There's soap in the shower. There was sponge in the shower. It was 2 rooms. Both rooms were now fully occupied. There was documents everywhere. There were clothes in the cupboard. Someone had moved into my brand new flat, although I had signed a contract for someone to move in August. So I'm confused. I'm saying, what the heck is this? Is this a squatter? Has someone claimed the rights to my property? What the heck is going on? So I called the estate agent, the second estate agent, and no answer. So I called the police, and I'm saying, hey, listen, I don't know what the heck is happening, but I think someone has hijacked my flat. And they were like, okay, cool. Well, call us back with further information. And I said, well, there's no further information because I don't know if it's a gangster. I don't know what the heck is going on. Am I going to get killed by staying here? Who has moved into my flat? My phone rings. It's the first estate agent A. And I said, hey, what the heck is going on? Like, I've just come back into my flat. Only you and this other person has got access to this flat. So what the heck is going on? This is where it gets a bit interesting. So estate agent A, who was the recommendation, a friend recommendation, who his uncle was estate agent A. The man, the crazy man, the estate agent, guess what he had done? Have a guess. Write in the comment section what you think the estate agent actually did. See, when I tell people this story, they say, oh yeah, maybe he had rented it out to someone else. Maybe he had given it to a friend or someone to stay there in the meantime while he was waiting for the new tenant to start in August. No, the crazy estate agent had moved his entire family into my property. The estate agent I had given the keys and signed agreements for him to find me a tenant had become the tenant and moved himself into my own physical property. So when I started reading through the documents, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I started seeing names, but I knew the name from somewhere. So I'm looking at the gas bill, I'm seeing bank statements, I'm seeing documents, I'm seeing all sorts of stuff. One letter that I saw was from the mortgage company, which was his mortgage company for his home, saying his home was about to be repossessed and this and that was going to happen. So what this crazy man decided to do was move into my property and move his entire family into my property. So I called him. I said, listen, you need to get yourself down here right now. About an hour later, he turns up. He turns up with 2 men, 2 henchmen, and I'm there with one young guy, and I'm saying, look, I don't know if we're going to die today. I don't know if we're going to get beaten up, but I'm looking downstairs and I can see this man coming up, who's an older man, maybe about 50, and some young guys who are probably about 30, but they're all this big and massive. So I'm saying, listen, we're going to have to die today because these guys are not going to steal my property that I've just bought. So he comes in. And he starts apologizing. In fact, that's not true. He didn't apologize. I had to force an apology out of him. So he walks in and he's quite arrogant about it. He says, well, look, I told you that I had a tenant for you and you were happy for your property to stay empty for 1 month. So I had some financial issues. So I moved in. And I said, what the flip? What the F are you talking about? It doesn't even make any sense. That's not how you address a situation as a professional. So you've got issues, so you decide to move yourself and your family into my flat because I was willing for my flat to stay empty for a month while you tenant it with the tenant that you had found for me. So we're getting into it. It starts getting heated. I said, listen, you owe me money. Because I don't know how long you've been staying in my flat, which means I've got to pay gas, electric, council tax. I've got to pay for all the bills for the period of time that you've been here. And he said, no, I'm not paying any money. You know, I'm sorry I did it. That was the first apology. I'm sorry I did it, but I had no other choice. One of the hench guys, one of the big muscular guys, then he says something to the tune of, so are we going to have a problem? And I'm thinking, yo, you guys are not getting this. As professional as I come across, listen, I'm also from the hood. So you can say, are we going to have a problem? Of course we're going to have a problem, because this house, which is brand new, which was completely empty, all I had provided was two beds. They brought in a brand new mattress. They had filled up the fridge. They had moved all their stuff in there. They had scratched the new flooring. They had made marks on the walls. So I said, look, you need to get out, but you need to pay me. And they said, okay, so how much do you want? I can give you like £100. I said, absolutely not. So I tried to calculate what they had used: gas, electric, council tax, rent in that period. And it came up to about 1,600, maybe 1,700. I can't remember. It was just over £1,000. And I said, you've got to pay that money. No one is leaving this place right now until you pay me what you owe me. But I'm saying this cautiously because I'm seeing these two muscular guys that could just punch me in the back of the head and walk out. So I blocked the door. I stood by the door and I said, look, no one's going. And then it started getting heated because he just started being really arrogant about it, saying, hey, if you can see someone in need, why wouldn't you help them? And this is the part that blew my mind. I know me. I know if he had said to me, this is the situation, I'm losing my home, my family about to be displaced, you've got this property, the property is empty. Is it okay if I stay here for a few days while I get back on my feet? I know me. I would have absolutely said yes. I would have just made sure I protected myself by writing and getting the right agreement in place, which would have had to come out of his pocket, of course. But what you've done as a professional is you've taken on my property illegally, you've moved into my property, you've caused damage in my property, and you were never going to tell me about it. So, long story short, he ended up paying 1,000 something, which means he had the money, or maybe he had to find the money from somewhere. He transferred it from this place and that place. It hadn't showed up in my account. He wanted to start moving his stuff out. I said, yo, we're all going to sleep here until that money arrives in my account. I ended up getting the money in my account, and I threatened to report him to the National Landlord Association. I threatened to leave a bunch of bad reviews. I threatened to do all sorts of stuff. Oh no, I forgot to tell you that it started getting heated when myself and one of his henchmen were about to get into a fight, because I said, look, do you know what? In fact, nobody's leaving here and we're going to have to fight. So okay, this sounds bad. He tried to barge past me. So I barged him back. Because as I said, sometimes you just got to get hood and you've got to let them know how far it's going to go. So he barged past me, I barged him back, and I said, yo, listen, don't touch me. And it turned into a situation, it was a standoff between me and the older man. And these two henchmen were like, yo, listen, this is going to turn into a fight. I said, listen, I'm ready to fight. So I ended up calling the police, because that's the one thing he was scared of. So I'd been threatening him for quite some time. I said, listen, if you don't pay my money, I'm calling the police. And he kept on saying, no, don't call the police, don't call the police. Then I got super angry and I thought, you know what, forget about it. I'm calling the police, which I shouldn't have done. I shouldn't have used my last card. I called the police. I got on the phone, and a young man on the other side of the phone picked up. So I called 999. The young man picked up. The police, hi, how can I help? And I said, listen, I'm in my property. Somebody, an estate agent, has taken over my property. He's refusing to pay. I'm not letting him out. He wants to take his furniture and everything that he's moved into my property. I'm not letting him out until he pays for it. And the problem is, this is the trick. And this was going through my head as I was talking to the police. I was saying, TJ, take it off loudspeaker, because you don't know how this is going to go. I know already from my experience, it's a civil matter. It's actually not criminal, it's civil. So I should have taken it off loudspeaker so I could lie to the estate agent and say, hey, listen, the police are coming for you right now. Pay up so you can go. But my pride didn't allow me to take it off. So this is what happened. The policeman says, TJ, can I speak to the person? Can I speak to the estate agent? And the police, and I was excited. I said, yes, estate agent, the police wants to speak to you. So he took on the phone and he said, hi, Mr. Police, before you say anything, I'm not saying that I'm not planning to pay him. I do intend to pay him, but I don't have the money right now. So I will pay. And the policeman told him off, all on loudspeaker, saying, how dare you? This is ridiculous. So what you're saying is you did this and you did this and you did this. Do you think it's responsible? Do you think what you've done is right? Blah, blah, blah. Now, what the policeman should have done is put me back on the phone and then given me the verdict. But the policeman carried on and he said, hey, listen, I just want to say that there's nothing we can do about this situation because it's a civil matter. The problem there was my get out card, my go-to card, which was the police are going to come and arrest you, killed off because the policeman said right there on the phone that, hey, there's nothing we can do about it. So I said to the police, yo, so if it turns into a fight and one of us ends up getting stabbed or getting injured, is that when you're going to attend? And he said, I hope it doesn't get to that place. And we hung up and we passed. So I knew it was down to me to get my money and to get this man out of my property. So I just stood by the door and I said, listen, we're going to have to fight if we've got to fight. And yeah, he ended up paying me the money. And I didn't end up reporting him. Because I genuinely felt bad that he was genuinely in hard times and he had financial difficulties. I just think it was a very, very irresponsible thing to do. Again, I'm not saying you should handle this situation how I handled it. I'm still laughing because it was so ridiculous how I handled it. When I told my mum nearly beat me up. She's like, why would you do that? That's dangerous. But again, you've got to be able to gauge the situations properly. I felt like he had taken the mick. I felt like this is wrong and I didn't really have any choice. So yeah, that's one of my craziest stories and one of my craziest experiences since I've been in property or since I've been a landlord in property. There are people out there that are 10 times ahead of you trying to find new scams in order to steal your property, take over your property or steal money from you. So I came across a quote many years ago. It was by Mark Cuban, the billionaire basketball team owner, Mavericks in the US. He said, work hard as if there is someone working harder than you to take everything that you've already created. Obviously, that's not the real quote, but it was around those sorts of lines. But the point I'm trying to say is you've got to be thinking 10 steps ahead. Because if you're getting into property, there are going to be situations. There are going to be people that you thought you could trust. There are going to be people who are playing the game smarter than you that are looking for ways to capitalize and take advantage. So that's one of my experiences. I would say that's my craziest experiences. But I've had crazier ones regarding escorts, prostitutes, stabbings. And I can tell you guys about those other experiences later. But just let me know. Make sure you like, comment and subscribe. And if you want me to tell you some more experiences that have happened since I've been a property investor, I will be more than happy to share it with you. Catch you soon.